Hi, I'm Ali and I'm going to take you through some stamping techniques today to show you how to create this little card. So we're going to look at some masking to create the idea of depth and dimension, and also a spotlight technique using paper piecing to add colour to a focal image. Enjoy! Okay, let's make a start with this card. So all I've done in advance is I've stamped out some of the bottles onto some scrap paper and then cut them out. Okay, you could do this at the time, just a second generation's impression is enough just so that you can see the outline, but it just saves me having to show you me cutting them all out. Okay, so what's nice about this card is it's all done straight onto the card. So again, this doesn't have to be a card, this could be a journal page or anything like that. Okay, so I've got a plain white card. I am going to unfold that just so that it will sit flat for me. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my main bottle. When you're doing a masking technique like this, it's actually a little bit counter intuitive, because you actually need to stamp the most forward one first. It's not like painting where you would build up a background first. This, you need to do the main image first. Okay, so you just position your stamp, stamp it down. Now, the other nice thing with this particular technique that I'm doing here is if you mess this stamp up, it doesn't matter, because we are actually going to cover it up, but I just need to get it in position. Okay, and then here is the paper one I've done. I'm going to lay that over the top, and I'm going to swap my stamp. Actually, that can stay on there. I'm going to use a different block, and I've gone for one of the smaller bottles. Okay, so again, I'm just inking it up. All right, and then with that paper in place, I'm just going to stamp my bottle down. Again, press firmly down. Okay, we've got that one stamped. I'm now going to swap to a different bottle. Now this time I don't need to mask that one off, because I'm actually going to just stamp this one over the other side of the card. So he's going to be away from the others, so I don't need to do any masking. But I am going to keep my first bottle in place just so I don't lose it. So we're just going to stamp him, and I'm sort of trying to adjust the heights that I'm doing these within. I'm not going crazily off the top of the card or anything, but it's as if they're sitting in different places on a shelf. Okay, now I'm going to cover that one up and cover that one up. So I'm protecting them all the time, so that this theoretically puts the other stamps behind them. And you'll see what I mean when I undo it all in a minute. Okay. And then this one's going to go in the middle here, but actually he is behind the others. So it looks like I'm putting him in the foreground, but by setting him slightly further up the card, it gives him the illusion of being behind. He is also a smaller stamp. Okay. You see, he's now behind those other bottles. So we've got our little arrangement there. On this one, I did extra bottles. You can do as many as you want to fill your card, and you could just leave it like that, but this bottle here is the one that we want to be the focal point. So we want to do something with him just to sort of make him pop out a little bit more. I'll need that in a minute. Right, so we're going to bring him back in, and what I've got here is an array of scraps of paper. Okay, and I think we're going to have a green bottle, so I'm just going to pop that out of the way for a minute. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to stamp this out, this on various colours of paper. Now, I don't need the complete image every time. If you're not a confident stamper, I recommend stamping them out each time, okay? Because then you can pick out elements that have stamped well. But I'm going to plan this a little bit. I want a green bottle, so I've stamped him on the green. This is going to get cut out fully. Okay, And I like these bottles because they're fairly quick to cut out as well, so you're not going to have to watch me do endless cutting. Okay, around the corner. And again, all these little scraps we save. One day I'll show you what I use those for. So around there. So that's my main bottle. So now I want to look and see what else on this image could we do in different colours. Well, the label is obviously one. The lid would be a different colour, and some of these little labels as well. Now, because I've got my main bottle done, I don't need to stamp every single piece. I don't need to restamp it every single time. So what I can do is take tiny scraps and just stamp on those. So I'm just focusing on the lid. And again, at this point, I would work on a scrap piece of paper so I'm not stamping onto my cutting mat. So I've just got the lid. So we just cut the lid out. There we go. And this is so lovely for adding colour to something without having to have lots of colouring mediums. And we all save scraps. You know, nobody here can say, oh, I throw all my little scraps away, because we don't, we save them. So this time I'm focusing on the main label, because I want to make that in this nice sort of vintagey colours here. Right. So then I can cut out the toilet water bit. I love the fact it's toilet water. I wonder why they changed it to eau de toilette. Sounds so much posher, doesn't it? Okay, so we've now got our label coming in. And then I want to pick out the last two little bits. I want to pick out the sort of neck label and the one that goes right round the top. So I've got some blue here. Now this is going to be a little bit wasteful, but I'm just going to do the sort of top half of the bottle just to make sure I get them. But again, if you were working frugally, you could remove that so you can see. If you were if you were trying to be really frugal, you could just use the teeniest, tiniest bits. So I'm wanting that collar bit. And because we're sticking this onto a stamped image, we're not having to put this back together like decoupage. We are just literally layering these pieces on top. So you don't even have to be brilliant at the cutting out. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfectly fussy cut it out. It can just be quite, not rough, but it doesn't have to be, because we're sticking it onto a stamped image. If we weren't working on a stamped image and we were piecing this together like a jigsaw puzzle, then obviously you'd have to be really careful with all your lines and everything. And then you're just going to use that as your plan to put your pieces back together. It's just a really nice way. And obviously if you've stamped out the whole image, you'll have extra bits, so you could make more than one bottle. I'm just showing you how nice and easy it is to get something. Which way up does that go? Obviously you can use tweezers and not be reaching around a camera. There we go. So I'm going to bring my card back in now, and we're going to pop that on there. And you see how now these are just sort of faded out into the background, and you've got this lovely colourful bottle here, which is the focal point. So that's why we call it like a spotlight stamp, because you're drawn into that, and these are just in the background. So if you were looking at a shelf, they're the dusty ones at the back, and this is the main bottle that you're wanting to buy. And then we just want a little sentiment, and I say this sentiment, read into it what you want. It's every empty bottle is filled with stories. Now some would say that's maybe left over from a party, and then they've got some stories to tell. Or I like to think it's something like a bottle that's been found on the beach. You know, where's it come from? What's its story? Has it got a message in the bottle? And there you've got a very simple, dimensional yet flat card with masking and spotlight paper piecing. Hope you enjoyed.